Welcome to the Anxiety Connection. If you've ever struggled with anxiety and are ready to finally get some answers, you've come to the right place. Hi, my name is Wendy Leeds, and I've suffered with anxiety my entire life. Thankfully, I'm also a psychotherapist, and over the years, I've learned a lot about anxiety, where it comes from, and how to manage it. That's what this podcast is all about. So, let's grab a cup of tea and talk about it. It's a new year. Thank goodness. 2020 is finally behind us, and I think most of us are moving into this new year with a sense of relief and maybe a renewed sense of hope and optimism. Actually, I believe this new year, 2021, is going to be amazing. Not just because hopefully we get to be able to get back to whatever our new normal is going to look like, but because we have it within our power to make this year wonderful, starting right this minute. Now, I am not talking about making promises to do better this year or to make the year better, or making those usual resolutions we all make in January and then we all break in February. I am not talking about that. Nope, not today. Today, I'm going to talk about actually keeping those promises, honoring that resolution, and moving past our fears to the amazing life that's waiting for us all on the other side of what is keeping us prisoner. I'm talking about that life of peace and calm and abundance we've all been dreaming of. And I'm also talking about finally finding the key that sets us free from our fears once and for all. This is the answer you've been waiting for. This unlocks everything. What am I talking about? Courage. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 simple steps to living a courageous life. Now, if you've ever seen the classic Wizard of Oz movie, which is just one of my favorites, maybe you remember the Cowardly Lion. He was on his way to ask the wizard for courage because that lion was pretty much afraid of everything, including, if you remember, counting of sheep and his tail. I just love that lion. Anyway, the lion knew if he had courage, if the wizard gave him courage, he would finally be able to stand up in his life and do what mattered most to him, the things he was meant to do as a lion. He would finally be able to roar. Courage would make him who he was born to be, the king of the jungle. And I think courage does exactly the same thing for all of us. Courage gives us strength to be who we were meant to be. Courage makes us us. But we don't have to go to a wizard to find our courage. We don't need a special medal to tap into the courage that's there inside of all of us. There's nothing magic about what courage is and how we can make it work for us. So, how do you do that? How do you find your courage and put it to work in your life? Here are 7 simple steps to living a life of courage. And I learned these steps through the process, actually the agony and the ecstasy of writing my book, Calm and Sense. Boy, that taught me a lot. Actually, before I got down to writing, I thought a lot about it. In truth, I wanted to write a book about anxiety for years. I cannot tell you how much I longed to write this book. And when I think about this and when I think about what I'm about to say, it's pretty hilarious. But the truth was, I was too anxious to write a book about anxiety. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. Truth was, for me, writing a nonfiction book seemed so scary back then that it just felt impossible. And when I went and looked around at the other books and other writers I loved, all I could think of was, well, those are special people and they know so much more than I could ever know. Their books are so much better than mine could ever be. After all, who am I? I'm just a worried, anxious person who wants to help other people deal with their worry and anxiety. It was a passion, but I had no idea how to find the courage to make that possible. So there I was with a seemingly impossible dream and absolutely no idea how to make it real. So let me ask you, what about you? Are you sitting there with a dream, a wish, a goal, something you know would make your life so much better? What is it? What is your impossible dream? What would your life look like if you could find the courage to make that dream a reality? Would you change careers, find a life partner, move to another country? Or maybe you have a smaller dream to ride in an elevator, or in my case, an escalator. That's for another podcast. To drive over a bridge, go shopping in a public place. It doesn't matter whether this is a big dream or what looks like a little dream. What matters is that this dream is going to make your life so much better. This dream is going to set you free from that fear. So take a minute and really think about it. Imagine it. Can you feel how wonderful it would be? How great your life would be? Are you excited about it? Great. Because step one is to want something that's bigger and more important than your fear. It's about knowing what you want and feeling really passionate about it. For me, writing the book was that thing. Thinking back, even the thought of writing the book scared me to death. It was bold, it was huge, it was exciting, and it was so far outside my comfort zone, it paralyzed me until I found step two. So step one is to want something with passion, something that really matters to you. Step two is to believe. Believe in yourself. Believe it's possible to have what you want. That's all. Just believe this is possible. And for me, that was really hard. I found step two really almost by accident. In truth, I decided I was never going to write that book. It wasn't for me, and I'd given up. When suddenly, out of the blue, someone told me I could do it. Someone said to me, your dream can come true. My wise business coach, Andrea, said, Wendy, you may not be ready to believe in yourself, but you know what? I believe in you. I believe you can do this. Look at what you've already done with your life. For heaven's sakes, there's no reason you can't write a book. We'll just take it step by step. And she said it with such conviction that I started to believe her. I mean, if she believed in me, maybe I should too. And when I thought about it, I realized she was right. I'd accomplished some other things in life, things that took courage. There were times I'd taken risks. I stepped outside my comfort zone, and I'd survived. I was still standing. So now let me say the same thing to you. You may not believe in yourself at this moment, but I believe in you. I believe you can do this. I believe you absolutely can have this dream you want so much. You just have to be willing to tap into and to use the courage that's there inside you. That's the key to writing the book, starting your business, asking someone out on a date, quitting your job, or going back to law school, whatever floats your boat. I believe in you. Why? Because I know you. I know you've acted courageously before. Remember the time you stepped up and did that thing you'd worried about for months? The time you said no to something you knew was wrong for you, or you said yes to something that made your palms sweat. See, you did it. You did that. It doesn't have to be a big, bold thing or moment. Courage is found in the smallest moments and the tiniest actions. That's where courage lives. And the truth is, if you did it then, even if you just did it once, you can do it again. And I believe you can do it now. You've gotten through tough times before and you're still standing. You've got this. Step 3 is to start looking at things differently, to tell your story differently. Years ago, I was scheduled to take a national licensure exam. Oh, even now, my heart is beating a little faster at the thought. It was a big, hairy, scary exam. I studied for months, but I was so afraid to fail that I'd actually convinced myself I was never going to be able to pass the thing. And at the very height of my panic, my husband stepped in with a voice of calm and sense. The name of my book. Anyway, this man with great calm and good sense helped me see the experience differently. He'd taken a similar test himself, passed it, and then helped other people take and pass this other scary test. He was a real expert in test taking. He looked me in the eye and said, "The trick is to stop seeing the test as a terrifying opportunity for complete and total embarrassing failure," which was, in truth, the way I was seeing it, and see it as a once in a lifetime adventure. Huh. Not a terrifying challenge and opportunity for failure, but a once in a lifetime adventure. I've got to tell you, changing those few words completely changed how I was thinking about the test. And when I changed my thinking, that actually changed the way I showed up for the test. I was no longer completely and utterly terrified. I was still really nervous, but I had relaxed enough to remember how hard I'd worked, how well I'd prepared. And I kept telling myself, I've passed other tests in the past. I can pass this test. And that shift, that change in belief is what helped me pass this test. Thank goodness. It was a long time ago, but the memory is still making me nervous. Anyway, as I was struggling to imagine what writing the book was going to look like, I remembered how well things had gone when I looked at things differently. And I wondered if I could find a different way to look at or think about writing a book. It took me a while. Actually, I think it took me weeks. But eventually, I had an incredible aha moment. I realized I wasn't just writing this book for me. I was actually sharing the things I had learned to heal my own anxiety with other people everywhere. It wasn't about me. It was about you. It was about helping you, my anxious friends, feel better, to share in my experience of finding a calm-centered life. And I thought, hey, I can do that. In fact, I'm excited about doing that. Helping people has always been my mission. It's my goal, it's my passion. And now this book is my mission. It's not about me, it's about you. Wow, what a change in how I felt about everything. And I think this was the moment when I really connected with and then embraced my inner courage. I knew at this moment I could step up and I could do this. So, what about you? What if you allowed yourself to look differently at what's making you anxious about your goal? What's keeping you from stepping up and doing the things you know need to get done? Instead of looking at what you'd like to accomplish as a terrifying opportunity for failure, could you call it an adventure? A challenge, maybe a challenge with some fun in it, a way to help others, a way to connect with others, a mission of some kind. Because when you change your focus, you change, you shift your thinking from those negative, fearful thoughts to thoughts of excitement and possibilities, hope, and courage. Step 4 has actually changed my life. For years, I tackled everything in my life by jumping in the middle of things. I was creative. I was spontaneous. I was a brilliant starter. I was fun. I love sharpening pencils and buying brand new notebooks. I love getting my pens lined up and ready to go. I love the starting. Great at starting, terrible at finishing. I procrastinated like anything partway through. And as a rule, after making my usual great start, I would lose my courage. I'd start to think about what other people were going to say when they noticed my work was not perfect, and I would start to doubt myself. My fears and my worried thoughts would absolutely overwhelm me, and I'd start procrastinating, or most of the time, I just quit outright. I quit a lot. And I kept on quitting and procrastinating, mostly quitting, until I was introduced to the absolute magic of making a plan. Step 4, making a plan. Life altering for me. Now, I know, for some of you, it sounds so simple. Of course, you make a plan. You knew that. Maybe you're already following a plan. Maybe you're a big fan of planning. Or maybe you've decided planning is never going to work for you, and that's fine. You do what's best for you. But for me, making a plan is the best way I know to keep me strong and courageous and focused in the middle of things. No matter what happens to throw me off course, I know what step to take next. For me, having a plan silences that worried, whiny, anxious, nagging voice that follows me around. You could do that better. Wow, that looks terrible. What's wrong with you? Wendy, you're just embarrassing yourself. Yeah. And maybe that kind of voice follows you around too. Maybe you've also had some experience with quitting or procrastinating. And maybe you'd like to start finishing things for a change too. If that's so, if you'd like to show up and see things through the end, I suggest making a plan. Now, I experimented with a number of ways to put together plans before I really got to work on the book. Played with things, but what I found really worked was so simple. I wrote down the list of topics I wanted to cover in my book. That was it. And that list became my map, my plan for how I wrote the book. Over time, lots of other things changed, but that list stayed pretty much the same. It kept me on course. It showed me what step to take next. No muss, no fuss, no worries. Small step, courage building on courage. So if you're interested in putting together a plan for yourself, something that can help see you through, I suggest keeping it simple. Sit down and make a list of the steps you know you're going to need to take. If you want to get fancy and go crazy, you can put them in the order you'd like to accomplish them, but you don't have to. Just make that list. That's it. You can change it and mold it as you go, but that list becomes your plan for success. Will you follow it exactly? Probably not. Things change, life changes, you change. But having that plan will keep you on track. And for me, knowing I have that plan in place gives me courage on the dark days and showed me where I was going when I couldn't see what was ahead. Step 5 is to start with the tiniest, teensiest steps possible. Just take one tiny step and then another tiny step, and then keep walking until you get where you want to go. That's it. I have a couple of friends who love to walk and they keep track of their steps with a pedometer or a Fitbit. They use different things, but over time, they've all logged enough steps to walk across the United States and back. That's quite a trip, quite a journey. Did they do it all at once? Of course not. It was one small step at a time. That's how courage works. Courage builds on courage, one step at a time. And that's how writing a book worked for me. Once I had my list of topics and I had my plan. So all I had to do was sit down and start writing. So did I dive in by tackling a chapter? Nope. That was way too big. And it was actually scary. Chapters just beyond my doing. So did I start with a page? Nope. A page was too much for me. I started with a sentence. And that's how I wrote the entire book, one sentence at a time. I wrote this book at the speed of a turtle with no place to go. Really. Common Sense is 360 pages long. And if I'd been writing a page a day, I would have finished that book in a year. But that's not what happened. What happened was that I almost never found the courage to write an entire page in one day. I had to go smaller. I had to go really small. And you may have to do the same. I found when you're stuck anywhere in anything, the answer is almost always go smaller. Make the steps smaller. Because when you make those steps smaller, you can slip right past your fear without waking up the "you're not good enough" voice. So for me, one sentence at a time. Day after day, I showed up with all the courage I could muster, and I wrote or I rewrote or edited or researched. Day after day, I made small, steady steps towards my dream. That's how courage works. That's how life works. You build your life, you build your dreams and your passions, one small, courageous act at a time, one at a time, and you don't give up, ever. It took me 6 long years to write that book. Boy, do I wish I'd started earlier. So glad I found the courage to start when I did. And I promise you, if you decide right now, right in this moment, to take an action, you will be so glad you did in days and weeks and months to come. So, can you think of one small step you could take right now that would get you started on your great new adventure? One small thing you could do. Why not do it right now? You know what? Put me on pause. Go make that call, send the text, throw out the old potato chips, put them in the garbage. Whatever it is you need to do to get started on your dream, go do it. I'll be right here when you get back. Did you do it? Good for you. If not, when we're finished here, I hope you'll stand up and go after it and get it done today, because taking that one step means you have taken a step towards that exciting goal of yours. You're on your way and you're one step closer to your new life. What an adventure. So now you're on your way. The adventure has begun. The question becomes, how do you keep going through the moments, those times when you start to lose your momentum? And boy, I had my share of those along the way. Step 6 is about how to keep going through the tough times. Here are what I call the 3 R's of regrouping. These are things I did when my courage started to falter and I needed to regroup. Try one, try all of them. See what works for you. Anyway, the 3 R's: remember, reinforce, and remind. The first R is remember. When I felt my motivation slipping, I remember what it was that got me started in the first place, my mission, my passion, that idea that I was reaching out to help other people. What about you? What's your goal? Is it to find a new way to help yourself, to help others, to make a change in the world for the better, to explore who you are? Whatever the reason that got you started, when you feel your energy lag, connect with that energy. It has power. It will bring you focus. Let it inspire you. Let it energize and motivate you to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Number 2, secondly, reinforce. Reinforce your courage by getting support. So you never have to do this alone. I was really lucky to have a wonderful coach, Andrea, who listened, supported, and cheered me on through the dark days and a lot of whining and complaining. Thank you, Andrea. Maybe you already have someone like that in your life. Lucky you. Hang around with them as often as possible. They'll keep you focused on building your courage and easing your way outside the old comfort zone. But if you don't have someone supportive in your life, why not join or start a support group of like-minded people? Find a friend who shares your enthusiasm about embracing change and agree to support each other. Over the years, I found that courage can be contagious. When you stand up in your life, the people around you may find the strength to do the same in their own lives. Just give it a try. See what happens. The third R is to remind yourself that you can do this. When I'm really struggling, I stop, I take a breath, and I remind myself that I can do this. I've come this far. I've worked really hard, and this work really matters to me. And I suggest on the days you feel like giving up, you do the same. Go look at yourself in the mirror, look yourself in the eye, and tell yourself the truth about how wonderful you are, because we both know you're pretty fabulous. Remind yourself how smart and courageous you are. Remind yourself of all the times you succeeded, you won, you did a great job. Be generous with your encouragement. You deserve the best of you. And that starts and ends with how you love and support and how you talk to yourself. So be kind. All right, the 4 R's. If you want to regroup, remember, reinforce, and remind, which brings us to step 7, the final step, and that is to celebrate every single courageous act along the way. Acknowledged when you've finished a step and you're ready to move on. Yay! Acknowledge that you've done something really well. And there are lots of ways to celebrate. I like to take time off. I take a night off, a morning off, and go do something fun. When we get out of quarantine, and if we're already out, you can go out for a meal, or you can cook a great meal at home. You can call a friend and share what you've done. Go for a walk or a drive. Sometimes just sit and think about what you've accomplished, the obstacles you've overcome. Enjoy the feeling of success. Savor it. And if you're working with a team like I get to do, celebrate with them, because there is nothing more wonderful than celebrating together as a team. When I finished the book, I took off a couple of weeks to do just nothing. It was great. But you know what was better than that? What was the most wonderful celebration possible was knowing that I had finished, that I had actually gotten to the end of something that mattered so much to me, that I was proud of what I had created. I was proud that I had created something that would truly help anxious people everywhere. That was so much more important than giving myself time off. That really was from the heart. And I've got to tell you, I love the cover of this book. And every time I look at it, I still celebrate how much I love the cover of this book. Anyway, around here at the Anxiety Connection, we celebrate with a woot. We love our woots, or woot woot, depending, and we work for woots. And for me, that's why celebrating is so powerful. I really do work for the woot and for that moment of celebration with the team when we all woot each other. I love that. And that motivates me to keep going. Celebrating your successes not only makes you feel great in the moment, but that celebration gives you and the people around you the energy and spirit to take on the next step. And as I said, you may inspire the people around you to celebrate their own successes. And you know what? That gets a double woot woot. All right. As we step into 2021, let this be the year we tap into our courage and our power. Let this be the year we finally free ourselves from fear and step out into a wonderful new life that's waiting for all of us on the other side of that comfort zone. Can't wait to see you there. Until we're together again, I wish you peace, joy, and love. Thanks so much for being here with us today at the Anxiety Connection. If you'd like to be a part of the Anxiety Connection, we would so love to have you join us. Just subscribe and you're in. It's that easy. Now, if you found today's message helpful in any way, I would be so honored if you'd leave us a review. And if you haven't heard, my new book has been published. It's called Calm and Sense, A Woman's Guide to Living Anxiety-Free. And it's full of tools and techniques you can use to help ease your anxiety, soothe your panic, and create a calm, centered peace in your heart and in your life. If you'd like to learn more about how this book can help you, or grab a copy for yourself, you'll find a link to the book in the show notes or on my website, wendyleeds.com. And if you know someone in your life who's struggling with anxiety, why not pick up a copy for them too? What a thoughtful gift for someone who might be going through a tough time. Thanks again for being here, and I look forward to being together with you real soon.